Hello everybody, I'm Michael Brown from Montgomery College Television. We're on the Germantown campus today for the very first town hall meeting of the 2013 fall semester. Now, Dr. Pollard is very excited to be hosting today's town hall meeting. I'm going to be her sidekick. Dr. Pollard and I have a little joke that I'm sort of Scottie Pippen to her Michael Jordan. And in my role as Scottie Pippen today, it's my job to make sure that Michael Jordan stays focused on your questions. And you can, we're going to try to get to as many of you as we can during the hour that we have today. You can help us out by doing a couple of things. One, try to keep your question as short as possible. And two, please make sure you identify yourself and stand up and wait for me to get to you with the mic when you ask your question. Again, we're going to try to get to as many of your questions as we can. And without further ado, let's get it underway. Here's Dr. Pollard.
Thank you very much, Mike. I'm excited. Welcome to each of you all. Since we're running a little late, I'm going to abbreviate my intro and go right into a few issues and then open it up to the questions we have that have already come in and certainly questions from the room. A few things I want to emphasize up front. As we are just now starting the fall semester, we're already thinking about the spring semester. So I really want to thank the work that Dr. Walker-Graffia and the CMAT team has been doing in terms of thinking about retention. That is the enrollment management plan. Many folks are very interested in how we're planning that, and they have some very specific things they're doing to plan for the spring semester, and they're starting that process now. So I'm very excited about that. Hope that each of you who are actively engaged in the academic side of the house also become very thoughtfully engaged in how we look at retention and making those plans for the spring semester. Saw an email yesterday. I also want to thank the work that the Closing the Achievement Gap group is doing. Very excited about the recommendations that will eventually be coming forward. Have received phenomenal feedback about the work they're doing, the research they've conducted, the recommendations they're going to be bringing forward. Very excited. Every student at Montgomery College should have the opportunity and the expectation of greatness. And the reality about that is that this committee, I think, is offering recommendations, or will be, that speak to that. I want to give a great shout out to the Global Humanities Institute. Very excited about the days that I see that they have planned. I think 32 days of humanities over the course of this next academic year. Very exciting. Those of us who were able to go to China and travel did sign an MOU with Xi'an University, and while I was sitting here, saw that they've already contacted us and are very excited about doing some work. So we're going to get that process started. Gotta say, something special is happening November 19th. Anybody know what's happening November 19th? We're going to see what a raptor looks like. That's what we're going to see. We're going to see what a raptor looks like. We have a doubleheader men and women's basketball. We're going to be unveiling the raptor. I can't wait to see what the raptor looks like and what his or her name is going to be, but she better be fierce. That's all I got to say. And two last points I'd like to make. Those of you who are particularly on the Rockville campus are more aware of this. I really want to thank the faculty, the staff, of those folks who were impacted by the the small fire, but really the fire wasn't the issue, it was the water damage that occurred after that. The good part, the sprinklers worked, but they worked in abundance. And a part of working in abundance means there's lots of cleanup that has to happen in that first and second floor of the Humanities building. Really want to thank those people who were affected by that, our students who had to have classes changed, those staff who worked tirelessly to get folks informed, our faculty who had to move and then go teach in different spaces. But also, I really want to give the biggest shout out to our facilities people and to our emergency management team. I continue to be impressed every day with what they do, and they're working tirelessly to get that facility back ready so we can bring, I think there were 20 classes that were actually impacted directly by that. We had numerous offices, so thank them for the work they're doing. And last but not least, we have aligned these days as I'm doing my town hall meetings with Trustee Information Day. Our trustees, I think we'll have 4 of them. He'll be on the Germantown campus this afternoon. One looking at the facilities that we have going up directly somewhere that way maybe. In addition to that, we're going to be looking at some very thoughtful things around developmental education, some innovation areas as well. So I want to thank the Germantown campus for hosting this, but also hosting the trustees. And the next one of these I'll be aligning as well with Trustee Information Day at the next campus that we go to. So with that, I'm done with my intro. We're going to get started with questions. Mike, I turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Pollard. Let's start in the room if anyone has a question. Here we go.
Hello, Dr. Pollard.
Hello,
my name is Megan.
Hello, Megan.
I just have a couple of questions.
First off, why have we instituted the limits on computer time? Because I do know some people, including my class today, who had a class in the library learning how to use sources, who have all gotten signed out without being able to save their thing before they got signed out. So I know of people who have lost research papers. I know of people who lost all of their sources recently. And so I was wondering, why did we institute that? Also, why do we no longer provide headphones at our computers in the library? Because we used to be able to just go in, and if we forgot our headphones, or if someone was unable to afford those headphones, we could just borrow them from the library and give them back when we were done. But unfortunately now we no longer have access to that. And it feels like if you no longer have access to headphones or the computers for extended periods of time, they're not getting the access they need to complete their schoolwork in an efficient and excellent manner. So I was wondering, why did we install those?
So thank you, Megan, for those questions. So the first, my response is I don't know. I don't know, but I have some theories on that. And what I can promise to do is if you make sure that I have your contact information, I'll put something out that says that. What I know to probably be true is that one of the challenges we have, because we are a commuter campus and we're seeing a growth in the number of students who are attending full time, we have the need to be able to create greater opportunities for all students to use those computer labs and computer in the library. So what we have had the case of is some folks kind of camping out. None of you all would probably have done this, but we've had some people who've kind of they have a class at 9 a.m., they're done and they want to stay till 2 o'clock. They may grab something to eat and then they go sit at a computer for 4 hours. A student like Megan who may be in between classes, that might be presenting a problem. So I'm sure we probably have some ghosting or timeout things that probably impact that. That being said, I'll find out exactly why, and I'll also find out some questions regarding the earphones. I don't know if it's a maintenance issue in terms of repair, overall expense of that. I don't know, but I'll make sure we find out. And if you give me your email address, we'll make sure you get some information about that. Thank you. Well, actually, I see some people behind you might know a little bit about this. Y'all, anybody got a brief answer that might be able to help?
Well, they were being abused on the Germantown campus, and there were groups that we didn't really know who they were, and they would just be there all day, and we had to put a limit on that. So it's because of the abuse that we had to do that.
Okay. So I think that's a great, one of the challenges, because we are open campus, a lot of folks besides our students also come on campus, and sometimes they may be using the computers for extended amounts of time. We also have had some people using them inappropriately or viewing inappropriate material for a college environment. So I know there have been some limitations may have been placed on that as well, but I'll make sure you get a more direct answer to that, Megan. And thank you for asking and being the first one. Woohoo. Yes.
I should not have come to work today. My name is Amanda and I work in the library. I have unfortunately two icky words to say regarding headphones. Head lice, okay? It's just, Rockville was having to clean them, and it just got to the point where it was, bring your own headphones and earbuds is the best thing to do. They're an inexpensive item, and they sell them at the bookstore. So, and if push comes to shove, we have some swag, little earbuds that you can use.
Very good. That's a great, so now we're looking about hygiene and public health. So thank you very much. This is great. We have more people in the room who can answer these questions.
What, you took it away from me. Also regarding the time limits, right now this is a pilot program, or we're trying to figure out what works best. So if we're getting complaints, let us know, and we can configure, say, right now students get 6 hours altogether at 2 hours at a time. So if 2 hours is not working, we can adjust it to 3 hours. Just let us know what's working and what's not working.
The other thing that probably is, I'm sitting here thinking, I don't know if there's a possible, do they get a warning like you're getting ready to time out? Because I do think the idea of losing material is problematic. Very good. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Hello, my name is Wendy Brown.
You don't have to speak up. The mic works for the audience on the internet, but not for me, so just loud.
Hello, my name is Wendy Brown. I'm a first-year student here at Montgomery College in Germantown campus. I just want to know what type of effects happen if any effects happen with the government shutdown affecting Montgomery College, because, you know, Head Starts around the country are shutting down because it is shut down. So it's like kind of a ripple effect. So I just want to know, like, how's it going to affect any funding? Because I did apply for a scholarship, and I got information bits here and there, but it's like basically I don't know everything that's going to take process because of, I mean, I don't know if it's because of the shutdown or has it affected Montgomery College in any way or form?
The most significant area that we're seeing are two. One would be in Veterans Affairs. So one of the things that's happening in terms of processing documentation that Veterans Affairs will process in order to provide loans to students or give us direct feedback, that has definitely slowed down. So we're very concerned about that. And in fact, I just spoke with somebody to think about the strategies the college can look at to help provide a bridge to assist students. I know that some folks in financial aid are looking at that. And I would also say, I don't have this in front of me, but I would probably venture to guess, and Beverly can tell me if I'm right or wrong, that because if a student files a federal financial aid form, they haven't filed a FAFSA before, and that has to go to the National Clearinghouse to be reviewed, there may be some slowdown or stoppage. I don't know if that's considered an essential service. So that's one of the things I know that we're probably also seeing in that regard. The greater concern that we have over time is going to be the impact it has on our county. We receive about 45 to 47%, any give or take, of our funding from our county. So as a result of that, our county then looks at tax receipts that they've been receiving from folks who work and live in the county. And if those tax receipts are not coming in, that might affect our long-term funding in terms, okay, we gave you this funding, we might need to take some back, we need to create a savings plan or whatever the case may be. So that concerns us. And at the state level, the state is also looking at how do they go into the trust fund that they've established to be able to think about how this might affect them in the long run. One of the things that's interesting, those of you who know, I didn't grow up in this area, so when we heard government shutdown, it was kind of this idea that the government shut down, right? The reality is that it impacts people's lives directly. I was listening to NPR the other day, we're thinking about home loans that are not being processed. I have a friend who's selling a house and had a problem with that because the folks can get their loan processed in order to do that. So there's some very substantive issues. But I also love the point you also made about what it's meaning to families on an individual basis. My son attends an elementary school here, and talking to another parent whose husband is unemployed, she works for the government, and she's very concerned about their livelihood. You know, so I think this is a very thoughtful conversation, the stress that comes with that. So we're very watchful of it and hopeful that somebody will get their stuff together. I don't know how you run a country this way, but I'd like to think we can do better. Thank you.
I think financial aid's a problem with our students.
Right, that's what I just said, yeah.
That's really affecting them.
Yeah. Mike?
All right, we did have a couple of questions that came in via email, and I'm going to go over one right now. This is from Sumita Kim, Associate Professor of Art. I have a question and concern regarding a faculty pay disparity issue. My concern has become heightened in light of a recent development on the staff and administrator side, as there has been a pay inequity review process established, and many staff and administrators have had their salaries adjusted. But there is yet to be any substantial discussion surrounding how to resolve gross pay inequities on the faculty side. The biggest part of my concern stems from the current system used for determining the initial salary of new faculty members.
So just so you know, Professor Kim did send me this question yesterday, and I appreciate that because it's a very, she actually gave like a 2-page explanation of what the question is. And those of you who don't know, we did do a salary compensation review of our staff, and our staff, which includes administrators, there were adjustments made based on market rate and labor markets and so forth in some cases, not in all cases, and we're having equity reviews as a result of that as well. What I can suggest to you is that faculty, they bargain collectively. So once a faculty member is on board, there's a whole process that goes through in terms of salary enhancements. Her question stems primarily, which I think is an interesting one, about how faculty are placed in the salary schedule once they start here. Based on what she said, I have to go back and do a lot of research on that and ask our human resources folks to talk about this. I do know that it's a very rigorous process. There's a lot of equity that is looked at in terms of how all faculty come in. And I think there's also continues to be some conversation about adjustments that may have to be made later as a result of new information that may come in. That being said, she gave a very lengthy explanation and also suggested some solutions that I have to take back to HR. So I'll follow up. But thank you, Professor Kim, for that. And I thought it was a very, very good point.
All right, we have a question here in the room.
Certainly.
Hi, my name is Nora George.
I need you to speak up for me because the mic doesn't amplify you.
My name is Nora George, and it's nice to meet you.
The pleasure's mine.
I have a question about the IT environment. Some of us are taking distance learning classes, and we've had problems in Blackboard, problems in Collaborate. And Collaborate is like our only class meeting, so to speak.
Sure.
Can you speak to that? Because we've had to address the IT service desk many times, and it's frustrating for the students as well as the professors.
Well, first of all, it's a pleasure to meet you, Nora, and I'm sorry that you're having that experience. There's a group of people who are sitting right in front of you who I think can maybe help me answer this question because I don't know. Laura, you want to take a stab at it?
Yes, sure thing.
And you'll have to project.
Okay. I'd be happy to follow up Blackboard.
Yes.
To find out exactly what issues they might be having on their end at Blackboard, and I can get her contact information and follow up as well. And would like to know if there's anyone else in the room who has experienced any issues with Blackboard. Okay. If you could contact me afterwards, and I'll follow up.
So let's do something even better than that. Okay. Since we've heard, at least I saw 4 or 5 hands go up in here, if you can then get the research and find out, and then we post something to all students, so that way they can know that we've looked at it, because there are 4 in the room, but there's probably more than that now. And she wanted to say one more thing, Mike.
Yeah. We actually contract with Blackboard for service, so it's an outsourced service desk, and it's possible they might not be meeting our service level expectations, so I'll make sure that that's addressed as well.
Thank you. I think that's a very good point Lori's making, because we wouldn't have even known this is a problem unless somebody lets us know. So thank you for that, because there is a service that we outsource to someplace else. And I know that our IT people are very responsive, but we also want to make sure that our vendors are equally as responsive. No.
Maybe you can speak to that too.
What about SunGuard?
I wondered how SunGuard impacts our IT as well as Blackboard. I was not aware that they were 2 separate entities, so I wondered if you would explain SunGuard's role in the IT environment on all 3 campuses.
Somebody talk about that? Thank you, Donna.
Hi, I'm Donna Shenna. The SunGuard is the company that provides our enterprise student information system.
Banner.
And then Blackboard is for our online distance learning programming. So they're 2 totally different vendors that we use.
So when we call the IT desk?
When you call the IT desk, who are you getting? Okay, so we have Blackboard Service Desk, that is outsourced to Blackboard, and then we have an IT Service Desk. That's outsourced, but we manage it closely within the college. In fact, we just hired a new director of client services that will be looking at that outsourced service, because we need to make sure that our service level agreements are being met. So if you have any issues with the quality of your experience with the IT Service Desk, that's the 77222 number. Please let us know. I'm Donna Shenna. I'm the interim CIO here, and we would like to know. We manage those outsourced contracts very carefully to make sure our service level agreements. And you're our clients, and so you need to let us know so we hold them accountable. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Blackboard or not?
Yes.
So that Collaborate would be a Blackboard issue?
Yes.
Okay, because we have lots of problems with Collaborate, dropped transmission during a class meeting. And our class meetings are like for 2 hours, so you're in and out, but you're actually getting dropped.
Thank you for making us aware of that. That's the first I've even heard of it as well. Thank you, Nora.
Dr. Pollard, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
My name is Austin Setzer.
Hello, Austin.
And going back to what we were originally talking about with the library computers, I don't think the issue is necessarily the amount of time, the 2 hour. It's more of when you're sitting there and someone comes to your shoulder and says, hey man, how have you been? How was your class? You kind of get sidetracked, and it's a little 30-second pop-up comes on that says the computer's going to go off. And if you don't see it,
because it says it's inactivity?
It's something, yes.
Okay.
And so it sees that, and it's a really fast time. And when you're talking to someone, you're getting sidetracked, and time's relative to what you're doing.
Right.
And so it goes away, and you're like, oh, I lost my research paper. One suggestion that I have that could be a possible solution is you have to log in with your MC number and your last name. So when you log back in, instead of it going back to showing a new page, maybe it just goes back to what you were last doing, and that might be a good suggestion if the IT people can look into that. Or instead of it being so fast to going back where you can type in and maybe fix that. But that was my suggestion.
And I think the point that was made earlier, I appreciate that, Austin, because the idea this is a pilot, and this is great opportunities for us to collect the feedback, because in trying to remedy one problem, we may have prevented or created some other ones. So thank you for that. And I know that they're going to be collecting data, but this is at least 3 good examples of some things we need to be thinking about. Thank you, Austin.
Hi, nice to meet you. Brenda Willette, second year, Tacoma Park. Most of my classes are distance learning, and I just want to make you aware that as a student, I feel I don't have any student rights. All I can find on the website regarding student rights is I have the right to appeal for any disciplinary action. But if I want to challenge the syllabus, if I want to insist, I think I should have a right to a proper testing environment. This goes back to the IT environment. A lot of my tests, I have to come to the campus but take them on a computer at a certain time. And if the computer is not working, you know, it's not formatting or for whatever technical reasons, these are some of the things I feel I should have. There's not a Bill of Rights for students. I'd like to see that change. I'd like to provide some leadership because I feel very strongly I don't have a voice in my education, and I feel like if there isn't a Bill of Rights or there aren't student rights, then the possibilities are not endless.
Well, thank you very much for your comment, because and what concerns me is that there are lots of, I believe now, opportunities for students to contribute to that, but the problem that I'm also hearing is that we probably have not made that as knowledgeable, particularly for students who are primarily online students. We have a very active, and particularly this year, an exceptional student council, one that's related to each campus, but also one that has an overall arching overview for the whole entire institution, and they have a direct seat on the college council where they offer constructive and thoughtful feedback about issues affecting student life. We also have a student services council through our governance system that allows you to contribute feedback to that, and there are student representatives on that group. So what I'd like to do, because I know he's here, if I can have Jason Rivera at the end of this just give you some contact information, and that way we can make sure that you know how to connect with those groups. And then the other thing, I'm thinking of Dr. Walker Graffia, who's leading an initiative regarding how students can express their concerns to the institution that are academic and or non-academic concerns. So that's something that's important. And there is an academic process, starting with the faculty member, going to the dean, then to the vice president. So what concerns me, even in all of those opportunities, you don't know about those as a student, and I want to remedy that very quickly.
I've gone as far as the dean and I've hit a dead end.
Okay.
And I think that it could be rectified if we students were given some basic rights. Again, a syllabus should, once it's published, distributed at the beginning of the semester. I personally would like to see it stay enforced that way. But unfortunately, I understand some things change, but I am experiencing monumental changes in syllabi that are disruptive to my life, and I am not able to accommodate those changes all the time, and I cannot earn the grades I should be earning.
I hear you, and I also need you to know that I hear your frustration.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Mike, your next question?
Right here.
All right. Hi,
Dr. Pollard. I want to give a shout out to my students that are in the room today, so thank you for coming and being engaged.
Awesome.
I'm glad that they are here. And studies have shown that students are more engaged in their classes when their faculty members are more engaged both in and outside of the classroom.
Sure.
But over the last couple of years, we have seen a dramatic lowering of the ability of faculty to be engaged outside of the classroom. At this campus, we're restricted in the number of activities we're able to participate in outside of the classroom. Changes to the academic governance system have restricted the number of seats that we have and the voice that we have in a lot of different areas at the college. And I'm wondering, and the restructuring provides opportunities for faculty to grow into new positions, but only at the expense of no longer being faculty. So I'm wondering if you could talk about strategies that you plan to use to increase the engagement of faculty outside of the classroom so that we can bring that back to our students and increase their engagement as well.
I really appreciate the framework that you asked in the question, because the literature is very clear about the engagement of students and faculty, and all of us are here about students. The part that I don't quite understand in your question, and I would love to talk with you offline and we could talk about it more here, the first part about the number of activities that you've been limited to, I'm unfamiliar with that and would love to hear more about that. What I find is, unfortunately, we have a significant number of people who are engaged, but an even more significant number of people who aren't engaged. And we see the same 15 people at every committee. You and I have actually talked about this in another conversation. So that to me concerns me from that perspective, because the other part of your premise I disagree with, and we've had this conversation as well, is that I don't believe that governance, the new system, has limited faculty engagement. It has changed the way faculty are engaged, and it has created a separation in terms of what happens in terms of collective bargaining and what happens in terms of governance. That to me I think is different, but I would offer that we have increased the number of faculty who are actually a part of decision making at the institution. I would also offer to you that we've actually placed things in the system before that were never there. I find it amazing to me that we hold up a system that we had before as being something that gave people great access without ignoring the fact that several things were problematic with that system. We had no space in place for part-time faculty in that. We had no space in place for students in that. We had limited engagement of staff in that because only non-bargaining staff had the opportunity to be a part of the governance system. So to me, and have the roles changed? Certainly. Do we have greater engagement by many people in that process? Yes. Doesn't mean we're still navigating what that means and what it looks like wholeheartedly, for sure. But I don't agree with the fact that, at least in my experience, and I would welcome realistic examples of how that has happened, because before, in the old structure, we had an academic assembly, we had faculty councils on each campus, and we had a series of standing committees. Those standing committees still exist. We still have faculty, I forget what they're called now, they're not councils, but they're faculty senates on each campus, and we still have college-wide faculty council, which is a body that didn't exist before, and we still have a college council. Is the role of full-time faculty different in the new governance system? Yes, I think so. Does that mean that that difference is something that we're still adjusting to? Yes. Does it mean that there is less opportunity for faculty engagement? I don't believe so, and I'm struggling. I hear this, and you and I have talked about it, and I hear from a vocal minority about that, and I'm trying to figure out what would need to happen in the governance system for engagement. Now, I'll talk about academic restructuring. That happened before I walked in. I know there was a question about academic restructuring. So if I can have you read that question on academic restructuring, and I'll tag it on to Tammy's question. And I want to thank you for bringing your students here as well, because I think that's a great opportunity.
From Jill Kronstadt.
Your mic? Oh, you don't need it. Okay.
I don't need it.
My bad. I'm so used to that mic, yeah.
Dear Doctor, this is from Jill Kronstadt, Associate Professor. That's the question you were referring to?
Yes.
Okay. Dear Dr. Pollard, both you and Dr. Pearl have consistently told the faculty that we have input on the college restructuring through committees that include faculty representation. Nevertheless, several major decisions have been made solely by administration, most notably the distribution of disciplines among the provosts and the plan to make department chairs administrators. Although a rudimentary restructuring map was presented last spring, faculty consistently said they needed more detail to respond meaningfully, and to my knowledge, there were no other opportunities for comment before the existing plan was adopted. What will you personally do to ensure that faculty have a more substantial voice in the rest of the process, especially given the December 20 deadline for completing the work? Can you give me some examples of how the input from faculty that you and Dr. Pearl have received have been incorporated into the restructuring thus far?
So kind of, if I can tag that onto your question or comment, Tammy, when I saw Jill's question a little bit before I walked in, I was kind of struck by it on several levels, because Faculty have been, and I'm going to say faculty and all employees for that matter, have been actively engaged in the restructuring process. I'd like to step back on this and comment a couple things. One is that restructuring and the organization of the institution is an administrative responsibility and right. That's something that we're supposed to do as an administrative team. However, we were very deliberate in ensuring that it was not just an administrative fiat, right? So we had a task force that came together that had administrators, faculty on it. It did not have a staff on it as an official member, I think, if that's correct. And it did, I think, a student who came in from time to time as a part of the conversation. But that was the group that came together. That group worked very deliberately. I had given them an initial deadline at the end of the semester of December of last year. They came to me and said, we need more time. So we asked that group, gave them until the following May, I think, to offer a series of recommendations. In that process, their responsibility were multiple. One, they collected research, they looked at multiple models, they talked about the existing construct that we have within the institution, and they came back and offered various recommendations. What I find interesting, and I love Jill's question about opportunities for faculty and staff engagement, they then had a series of open forums, but also the people who were on the task force were supposed to be going out and getting feedback and bringing it back to the group, both in terms of those folks who were actually part of the composition of the group and those who were resource or observers of the particular group. And I know that for a fact I had informal meetings with people who were a part of the process. I had formal meetings, and I would also say that there was an opportunity where multiple groups delivered alternative perspectives about how to look at the restructuring process. In fact, that influenced one of the version that actually came out. There was a whole series of questions about how the department chairs would look, what the configurations were. I think there were three models that were advanced by the task force. So the premise of the question I find somewhat troubling, because I believe, and I have yet to see an example of how we have not, and I'm going to speak to the two that she made in here, have actively engaging faculty in that process. Does that mean that we get to have a shared decision in what's going to happen? No. It's not going to be a shared decision. There is a responsibility that each of us has. I can think on one time in my career as an administrator where I've had to intervene in something that happens in the classroom. That is a faculty prerogative. I support faculty autonomy in that. I help students understand how to use the system if they have concerns or complaints, but we allow that to happen because that is a faculty right and responsibility of what happens in the classroom. The interesting part about this is that management also has responsibilities and rights, and part of that is to organize the organization in a way that they think responsive to the needs of the community we serve, the students, the changing environment that's affecting higher education, the accountability standards, SB 740, those of us familiar with that. There are lots of things that are impacting that, and more importantly, what we hear collectively from students as well. I sat through a series of town hall meetings last year and heard from multiple students who would come in before, after, during, and talk to me about the inconsistency of instruction and services across our campuses. I hear from faculty and staff who've told me about the inconsistency of support in their individual departments, the inequity of support in their departments, the inequity of ESH being developed on certain campuses versus all campuses. I mean, all kinds of things. And that was the intent of this process. Has it been perfect? No. No doubt about that. It has not been perfect. But I believe the intent was to actively engage people on that. We gave a significant amount of time for the task force to come up with its recommendations. And more importantly, we have now even said, you know what, here's this idea, here's this model we've advanced. There were some decisions made. There was a decision to make how the disciplines are going to be distributed. The deans and provosts, actually the provost and the vice president, senior vice president, that's their responsibility to do that. That's their job. Everybody has a job within the organization. It's not always very popular, but that's their job. And they came together and looked at numbers of people in the area, the numbers of courses in the area, the budgets of those areas, and figured out the best configuration that they thought based on their experience, their background, and their knowledge, and put those together. Now, here's the beautiful part about this. We could have stopped right there, and we could have said, now, vice presidents and provosts and deans, you all go in and figure out all those other questions of what these areas look like. We didn't do that. So going to our other question, how am I personally engaged in making sure people have that role? We said we're going to create these series of committees that are going to have composition of faculty and staff and administrators to assist in crafting the model that's going to look like. One of the challenges I think that is inherent in higher education, and I talk to my friends who are outside of higher ed, I'll say, help me understand how you might do restructuring in your, my sister's a banker. And so I talked to her, and when I talk to them about governance within our industry, they find it, they're baffled by it. And I talk about how reorganizations are done. Those of you who've worked at other colleges may have had this experience where you walk in and it was done. Here's the reorganization, you get in where you fit in, and if you don't fit in, you're gone, right? We chose not to do it that way. That's not how I believe. That's not my leadership philosophy. More importantly, we've actively engaged people in the process. Do people get as much engagement as they think they want? Maybe not. Is everybody going to be happy with the end result? Maybe not. Do I believe that the process we have done has been with integrity? Has it been a process to engage people? Has it been a process that has the student experience and outcomes as the driver of what has been done? I believe that. And is this process done? No. So December 20th is the timeline we've asked for. There's a reason why. I didn't pull it out of my butt and say, oh, here's December 20th. I actually wanted it in November. Anybody have any idea about why I might have wanted it then? Budget, right? If you want to be able to make plans for these things, you have to think about how it fits into the college budget. The budget goes to the county executive when? Anybody know? I hear somebody say December, right? County executive is going to get the budget in December. I have to let him know my best thinking about how we're going to use the budget at Montgomery College. So that was the timeline. If we come in later in that group and they can have compelling reasons to say we can't get this done in December 20th, there has not been one deadline that I have been hard and fast on. In fact, last year when they did the reorg, if you remember, I wanted a semester, it took a year. I took a summer to look at their results and came back and said, now let's figure out how this is going to play. So there's an interesting dialogue here that has to happen in terms of understanding roles and responsibilities. Have no doubt. I love the way you framed the question about student engagement. How do we make sure that we're always thinking about the students as the driver of the decisions, the students and their needs and outcomes? So that would be how I would respond to Tammy, your last part of your question, and also Jill's question as well. I'm personally committed to make sure this happens. I want it done, but guess what? It's not the only thing we're doing at the college. And right now we're being held hostage with the idea that we're going to be talking about reorganization for the next 500 years. It happened, y'all. It's going to be done. I want to have people having conversations about what innovation is in teaching and learning. I want to have conversations about students who are being unsuccessful and how do we keep them. I want to know what the profile is of a student who takes 15 credit hours here and is unsuccessful. I want to know how a student who's in distance learning cannot understand what her rights are as a student here. I want to have some conversations about inequity in the library system here. I want to have some conversations about how we become a destination employer. This is not the only thing we are. Let's figure that part out too. Sorry, I got a little worked up on that last one, so I'm going to sit back down. Yes, ma'am. Oh, they just come right to you.
My name is Stephanie Cacho, and I'm a full-time student here at the Germantown campus. And my question is regarding the cafe we have here at the Germantown campus. Some of us are full-time students, and we work on campus, and sometimes we have breaks, like 10-minute break between classes.
Sure.
And sometimes we don't have the time to go to an affordable fast food restaurant to hear it.
Right.
And our cafeteria is really expensive, and then we don't have a lot of option. I know the student senate touched on that point last year, and I don't know if anything is going on to change that. I just want to know if anything is going on regarding the issue.
Thank you for the question. What's your name again? Stephanie, thank you for the question. That is indeed an issue that every college campus I worked at. Number one complaint, parking. Second complaint is food service, right? So, and particularly from a student perspective, and the other one is other support services, such as the library. We actually did do something, went out to bid, and we have a new agreement with the providers of our food service program on all three campuses. One is that all three campuses will be a part of one conglomerate that's responsible for food services here, and they're in the process of implementing that contract. That contract has some very serious requirements as it relates to cost of foods, variety of food, service I love what did you call them, service level expectations? same service level expectations, and you're going to start to see some significant changes in many of those things over the next several months. Now, that being said, will it still cost you probably more than you think it should cost you to eat? Probably so. It's an overhead expense that we have at an institution, but we're committed to trying to figure out how to lower those costs and also how to use our food services program as a support service for our student activities and student life as well. So that's something we're working on. Thank you, Stephanie, for the question. How about this yellow jacket? I need one of these.
I'm sorry.
I love it. Don't apologize.
It's raining outside.
I can see you.
My name is John McLaughlin.
Hello, John.
I'm an adjunct faculty in English.
Wonderful.
And I hope this is not a closing down question, but is LGBT month, what has been done at the college to respond to the problems of LGBT children? Because there's a lot of bullying not always acknowledged in various campuses. No wonder what's been done about that in this campus.
Thank you, John, for that question. His question was that this is LGBT History Month, and how are we as an institution responding to some of the issues that are affecting young people, in particular bullying, he referenced specifically. One of the things I'm very excited about, we have a new, I shouldn't say new, I guess it's been around now 2 or 3 years. I'm trying to think if anybody in the room is from that group, where we have formed on each campus an MC Pride Alliance on each campus, and they are advancing both in terms of training and development, programming various activities that can help craft an environment where people feel safer, they feel more valued, and they have an understanding about the resources that are available to the institution. I don't have a calendar in front of me, but I'm fairly certain there's some things happening with that, including the college's own Portrait of Life exhibit that we've done. I'm actually in that one, and I was just speaking yesterday at a high school about LGBT issues and my own experience of coming out and how that plays itself out. So I value your question, because what's important about it is in the midst of all the different things that are happening here, the reality is at the end of the day, how are we making sure that we're acknowledging a difference, how are we acknowledging similarities, and at the same time, how are we making sure the students, faculty, and staff feel comfortable in an environment here. So I'll find out the specific calendar and make sure that we're doing some things if it's not public on our website. Thank you, John.
Okay, we're going across the room here.
Yes, sir.
Hello, Dr. Pollard.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. My name is Grace, and I'm a student at Germantown campus.
Yes.
And my question is about the information about scholarship and internship. I know that we have a lot of scholarship to give to students, but they don't know about it. I have like a lot of students come into the student life office and ask me, what is this scholarship? How do you get scholarship? And like, you know, the website for the scholarship is like, it's not been updated. And some scholarship I see up there is like, the deadline is like 2012 or 2011, and it's still up there. And like a lot of students just don't have any information about that. So like, can we do something? Can we have like a separate board for like scholarship that helps students, you know, like people who can help students find scholarship? And then for the internship, like, I know that there's like some internship that you post on MyMC, but there's some other like internship for like science internship. Sometimes like the professor just tell the student that they like about that internship, and that's just not fair to other students. And sometimes I just find out from my friend, oh, you know that's the internship you should apply, and it's like past the deadline already. And I have no idea about the internship because I never see it anywhere on MyMC. So is there any way that we can get rid of that?
So one, yes. I think it's, I have a couple of pet peeves in life. One of my pet peeves is that people who park in the fire lane in front of a door, that's one of my pet peeves. My second pet peeve is if you were to walk right here and you see this doorway, and there are 2 doors to a doorway, and one is only unlocked and the other one isn't. That drives me crazy. I don't understand. My third pet peeve is inaccurate and untimely information on a website, particularly when it's dated. We're in 2013, October 2013, and you're seeing something in September 2012 on a website. If it's not current, it's not relevant, and therefore, why do we have it up there? So that drives me batty. I'm going to personally go and look at that one because that ticks me off. That being said, we have purchased some new software at the organization that, I forget the name of it, oh darn it, that's going to allow us to be able to do a much more effective scholarship process, where all the scholarships will be loaded into this software process. It will be able to spit out relevant deadlines. You can apply directly online for these scholarships. So we have that available. The second part of your question about the internships is one of the reasons why this academic reorganization is critical. I am struck by the number of students when they talk about inequity in their experience here at the college. So the fact that a particular faculty member on a particular campus knows a piece of information about an opportunity for students, and they don't make it known, and they kind of have this favorite approach, to me it speaks to a bigger issue about how we communicate across a discipline. If I am a physicist and NIST has a scholarship, unless there's a person, they write me and say, Professor X, give me a specific name, that's one thing. But if they say we have this opportunity and we have an opportunity for 10 community college students in the country to apply for this, you should know that if you are a student who is in that discipline, and be deeply connected to your faculty member and department chair who can help make that information available to you. So I'm sorry that that has been the case, because that should not be what happens here. And this is a very good example of how we have to be very thoughtful about, again, what I find interesting is how students talk to each other more than we even know as an organization, and they help us be very thoughtful about inequity. So I'm personally going to look at the scholarship thing, because that's a little pet peeve of mine as well. Thank you. Grace.
Okay. I'm going to go across the other way.
Okay.
In the back of the room.
Dr. Pollard, you just mentioned that parking is the #1 issue on campus, and the county just established its bike share program. And I'm Herb Winkler. I am going to be the facility advisor for our bike club, because we just had a bike to campus day on Tuesday, and we had enough people that were interested. So what I wanted to share with you is that the bike paths that we have in the region are just scattered, and they're not connected, and so that's an opportunity for us to help our community. And one thought is that north-south is the way people travel here in the community, and we don't have a path like a Mount Vernon Trail would really be an asset. And if we built it to the west of the Pike, it would really show that our campus is in a prestigious location on the Rockville campus. We had these climate change people start at Camp David to march down to the White House, and they couldn't march on a path, so they took the C&O Canal. It took them 100 miles. But we see president's helicopters flying overhead. That's the shortest distance. So if we were to establish a path, it would only take 70 miles, so we could give those climate change people some efficiency coming through our community, and it would be giving people opportunities to get to our campus. But I thought that I would ask first, because I know I have to go through facilities, but if we were to build it to the west of the Pike, it would be right there in our region. And I just wanted to ask, before I went to facilities, what our thoughts were. Would we be able to maybe put a path in?
So I will shamefully admit my ignorance. I don't know anything about what you're talking about in terms of a pathway. That being said, there are a couple things I would advise you to do, and I think this, one is I'm open to the conversation. I think that's probably what you need to hear the most. Now we have to have a conversation. There's a whole issue about land usage, how the college has to do that. There's if Rocky was in here, I'm sure he'd be talking about liability issues and how we have to do this in easements we have to make with the county and state. That being said, I think you're right to take this to facilities and start that conversation. We have a green team committee, I believe, here at the college. They're looking at these issues. And I think I also would encourage you to figure out how to get it into the governance system. And the Operational Services Council might be a very good place to raise this as a conversation, to start thinking about what might be the impact within the institution. But I know this is my green guy. If I ever want to have a question about green and sustainability, I go to Herb. All right, thank you.
Going across the room.
Zigzag.
And around.
Thank you for doing this. This is wonderful.
Thank you.
My name is Barry, and
Hi, Barry.
actually right now I'm a temp, but I'm also a community person.
Awesome.
So my question is from a community perspective. I grew up in Montgomery County, and 99% of my friends grew up in Montgomery County. And just the other night, we were all sitting around talking about Montgomery Junior College and Harvard on the Pike, or Harvard on the Potomac.
Yale on the rail.
And
I heard that one too.
The way it used to be. And it used to be that if you graduated from a Montgomery County high school with a D average, you got into Maryland. I mean, that was just the natural progression. You just went to Maryland. Well, that's just not the case anymore, as everybody knows. But from working here, I've been here for about 7 or 8 months now, I've noticed that there is a lot of really good stuff going on, and I don't think the community is hearing about it. You know, our friends probably would not send their kids to Montgomery College, but I don't see why they wouldn't.
Right.
There are, I mean, I don't know where we stand from a comparison perspective to the rest of the country. #1. Is it? Well, if that's true, that word needs to get out there. Put it in the Post, put it in the Gazette. Let people know that the #1 community college in the United States is right here in Montgomery County, and you should be sending your kids here, and I don't see any of that happening.
Well, thank you. Your comment speaks, I think, to two things. One, your name again?
Barry.
Barry, thank you very much for that. Two comments I'd offer to that. One is that I've worked at 3 community colleges, and this is endemic in every place. It reminds me of the fact that when you give everyone access to something, you make it at a reasonable rate of access in terms of pay, everyone starts to question the value of it, right? So I worked at the College of Lake County in Illinois, the suburbs very comparable to, suburbs of Chicago comparable to this county, same experience that you have there. I worked at Las Positas College in California in the suburbs of San Francisco, same experience there. It's endemic because it's ingrained in us as an institution. One is that for so long we thought of ourselves as junior, right? That we were less than. And the framework, if we go back and look at how community colleges started, we go back to Dr. Harper, who helped put the community college together, it was seen as a stepping stone model. We have so evolved from that process. And for me, that I think is interesting, a lot of my friends will say, you know, oh, are we going to have a conversation about community colleges, and, you know, let's sit down and you need to explain this and help us, you need to justify community college. I say, I don't know who you're talking to. You know, at this point, I don't care. If you don't get what I do and you don't know the value of what I do, that's shame on you. That's shame on you as a person who is educated and informed. You don't know the value that I bring to this community. That being said, we also as a community college have to talk about the ways in which we impact this community and how we do it substantively. And if Dave Sears were in here, he probably was, I would accuse you of having been planted by him. Because we're in the process of budgeting right now, and how we market ourselves, how we brand ourselves, how we advance. You know, I have this radical idea that I want to turn Montgomery County into a college town. So that everybody, you cannot move, breathe, think about anything in this county without thinking about how you're coupled with Montgomery College. The dirty secret is that already exists in a lot of places, but people don't know about that. So we're very deliberate. As a part of the budgeting process this year, he has advanced a significant amount of money that he's proposed that we look at doing in terms of budgeting and branding for us. But the last thing I'll say to that, the best way in doing that is us ourselves, right? And every time I go into a place, probably because my face is seen everywhere, and they have to first thing to figure out, she got a new hairdo, who is that? But after they figure that part out, every day I go someplace, I meet somebody who says they were transformed at this college, or a family member, an employee, whatever the case may be, and we have to do it loud and proud. Part of our problem is that we didn't have a brand that we're advancing. Are you trying to tell me to stop? Okay, a brand that we need to advance because you know, we have 3 campuses. Well, we had 3 campuses with 3 mascots and 3 sets of colors, and people were so busy identifying with the campus, they didn't think about the college. You know, I love walking around campus right now. I see people in their purple, black, and gray. I mean, that to me is real, because, and when I want to go into the community and have a Montgomery College weak in the community, and I want to flood it with purple, black, and gray. And everybody who has any association with Montgomery College, you wear that. And I think we would be surprised at the number of people whose lives we impact and the value we bring. So I appreciate your question, Barry, as a temporary, but also as a community member.
Going back here.
All righty.
And this is going to be our last question.
Uh-oh.
Hi. Hi, my name's Daniel.
Hi,
nice
Daniel.
to meet you. You know, I completely just wanted to go along with what he said. I've been here for 2 semesters, more or less. Or no, sorry, 2 years, more or less. I just wanted to say that, like, this college, I feel, when I first realized I was going to come to Montgomery College in high school, I was kind of, at first I almost felt a little ashamed because I was, you know, you have lots of friends that are going to Maryland, that are going all kinds of other places, and I realized at the point, you know, my family didn't have the funds essentially to send me to a 4-year institution. I thought, oh, great, I'm going to MC. That's where everyone else is going, you know, everyone that didn't get the scholarships or whatever. But for me, being here has been probably by far the best decision I could have made. I mean, it's been amazing because I've been able to be in a place where I know I can grow as a person, and like I can grow in a way that's a lot more beneficial to me than I know a lot of people that a lot of my friends are growing at plenty of 4-year institutions that are these, you know, these big, really expensive names. And like, I completely agree with everything that, I'm sorry, I forgot your name.
Barry.
Barry, yeah. That, you know, with what he said, I mean, this place, a lot of, you know, I've had a lot of really great professors here that have really helped me along the path of, you know, growing as an individual in my time here. Professor Rudin, she's awesome. You know, and there's been a lot. This place has been really good to me, and I really feel like, although I feel like that doesn't get marketed enough. I feel like that doesn't, like, I grew up in kind of an international community of people who move around a lot, and I had a lot of those people kind of always end up coming back here. So when I kind of see these people like Thanksgiving, stuff like that, you know, these family gatherings that we have, everyone's like, oh yeah, my kids are going this place, you know, they're going there, this and that, and I'm like, you guys live here, just go to MC. Why are you wasting your time? And they're like, oh no. They're like, no, you know, why would we send them to MC? I'm like, oh no. Like, I mean, I have so many friends in high school that ask about it, and they're like, oh, you know, no, I don't want to go there. I don't want to go to MC. It's like, no, I just want to leave Maryland. I want to leave.
Well, it's the phenomenon when something is close to you, you don't appreciate the value of it. But when you go, and I tell you this, I go across this country, I go across the globe representing this institution. Montgomery College has a brand. Montgomery College has a reputation. We have phenomenal faculty. I mean, when you look at what's happening in the classroom, you look at their contributions to the literature, you look at their teaching. I mean, the fact that we have had Maryland Professor of the Year in the last 10 years, Maryland, I'm not just talking about Montgomery County, I'm talking about Maryland Professor of the Year. You look at that. You look at the ways in which they are contributing and changing the discourse in so many areas. It is astounding to me. So we have world-class faculty. I would offer to you that one of the things that we're doing is also to create the student experience is creating a world-class student experience. One of the things we hear when we do focus groups, students want to hear more student life, they want more about student athletics, all those types of things, and we are crafting that experience for them, and we're being intentional of meeting students where they are and helping them get to where they want to be. World-class support services. I would even tell you that we have a world-class, and we're getting to this, facilities. When you look at, you know, you walk over to this new building that we're building here at this campus, it's going to be unbelievable. You won't be able to see something like that on a mini campus. So I love the point of what you're saying, and we have to market and advance ourselves. But the other thing I'm going to say about it is shake it off. I don't want to accept somebody else's definition of who I am. And so, you know what, that's your issue. Thank you. Thank you, Daniel. I really appreciate you.
Thanks a lot for that great question. We are out of time.
That went fast.
We are out of time. I want to say before we close here, I think this has been probably the best town hall meeting we've had, certainly the liveliest, with some great questions. So we want to thank Dr. Pollard, but we want to thank all of you. I want to thank all of you for participating in today's town hall meeting. Now, our next town hall meeting is going to be November 7th. It's going to be on the Rockville campus.
For my birthday.
Right. Please keep an eye on the President's Monday Corner message.
Oh, yeah.
President's Corner message on Monday, and also Inside MC Online for all the details. But again, that's going to be November 7th. It'll be on the Rockville campus. You can also follow us at new.livestream.com/Montgomery College Live. And if you go there, you'll get all the details on upcoming live Montgomery College web events. So once again, for Dr. Pollard and everyone on the MCD TV production crew, we want to thank you all for participating in today's town hall meeting.